Hey, this is your Made Free Life podcast with your host, Shawn, where we have weekly conversations about faith, freedom, and adventure. We are back, episode 2, season 2 of Make Men Great Again, and I got my good friend, Travite the Rabbi.
What's up, everybody?
And I'm excited to have my buddy back on the program, and this subject especially because I feel like you and I share so much passion with this particular subject as we've been talking about what it means to make men great again, and I stole that from the Trump campaign. And so I think it's an exciting time that we're living in, but it's also, I'm seeing a decline in masculinity, what it means to be a man, some of the pitfalls that I'm seeing this culture. And so when I say, Travis, to you, make men great again, or better yet, the masculine soul, what are some of the thoughts that come to mind?
Oh, wow. You know, there's been such a great attack on men because the enemy knows that anytime you want to stop a movement, you go after the men.
Sure.
So at the end of the day, the enemy knows, like, hey, if we can take the men out, then we can take the movement out. And so whether it was Pharaoh with the Hebrew nation, it was ordered that the males 2 and under.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that they would be taken out. Why? Pharaoh's looking around and he's going, man, if they outnumber us,
Right,
then they're going to be able to overtake us. So what do? Notice that Pharaoh didn't take the women out. He took the male children 2 and under. He would execute them. And so at the end of the day, the enemy knows that if he can just remove man, then he can be successful in stopping a movement. Same thing with Jesus. Herod, whenever Jesus showed up on the scene, Herod, declared that the Hebrew male, the nation of Israel, 2 and under, not the females, but the male, if he could take them out, the enemy is spiritual. Now, if the enemy could take the man out, then he takes the movement out. And let me just say this, out of every religion on the face of the planet, Christianity is the only one that the women outnumber the men.
Yeah, that's good.
Because he's not worried about Hinduism.
Yeah.
He's not worried about Muslim. He's not Islam. He's not worried about all those other movements, because those movements they're not truth. They're not going to gain it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I said this last week. It bears repeating. We have a lack and a decline of spiritual legacy in the home with men, and it appears to me, having pastored almost 2 decades, that most of the women are the most spiritual ones in the home. They're the ones that are leading their children to go to attend church, to pray, to have conversations about God. In some weird way, men who once were taking the rightful place, who were leading their homes. I'm not saying this as an overview. I'm just saying there seems to be a decline where men are doing that less. Men are distracted. Men don't see the importance.
Yeah, it's
anymore.
like they're just a part of their family.
Correct.
Just insert man, I'm just a part. Well, no, God's never called you just to be a part. He's called you to lead, whether it's spiritually or relationally. When it comes to the marriage, man was created and designed to lead.
Correct.
And any time that the enemy can remove man out of the equation, then the effectiveness of it being unhealthy and stopping the spiritual movement or the momentum, we can see that all through Scripture, that there is a blatant attack on men, even when it comes to our relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
Think about like the feminization of the gospel in Jesus. You look like this Western picture if you go into your grandparents' house and you see like almost like this soft image, like like with the wavy hair. He's like feminine.
He doesn't have calloused hands, and
right,
and he's rugged. He's femme, and
and so I mean,
like almost emasculated.
Well, it's like this, and this is what I thought. I'm just going to be honest, because I was so deceived, because that's what the enemy does. I thought if you were going to be a Jesus follower, somebody who faithfully attended church, you're going to have to hand in your man card.
Yeah.
I mean, did you?
No, I totally thought that. You can never be angry. You can never confront. You can never draw a line in the sand and say, no, this is what I stand for. I'm not gonna allow this. Yeah, totally. And I think that's still the mindset. And I think if we were to be real and honest and authentic in today's conversation, I believe that's why a lot of men, I think there's a drawing. God is drawing men to himself, as he always has been. But I think men hasn't seen it modeled in a way where they can still be masculine. They can still like football and drink a beer and still love God, or whatever the situation is, where men can still draw a line in the sand and say, I'm not Barney. I'm not a purple dinosaur that's just going to let everybody run over me. And like I always say, and you've heard me say this, Jesus was meek, not weak. We don't need to get that twisted.
Yeah.
We're talking about a man's man. Jesus was a man's man.
Yeah, let me just say this. He was more like William Wallace
Yes, he was.
than he was Barney Fife.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let me just say this to any man out there that's watching this, you cannot whip Jesus.
No.
He's the greatest fighter that's ever. I mean, he's the lion, and he's the lamb when he needs to be.
Yeah.
But the reality is that when it comes to masculinity, that there's been a branding problem even within the church, and that's why, Shawn, we work so hard here at City Church to have programs like MOA, Men of Honor, like where we go through intense discipleship of what does it mean to be a godly man? What does it mean to lead your family? What does it mean to be disciple? What does it mean to fight the good fight of faith? And in doing so, we're not just going to go through curriculum and classes, but we're going to model that, whether it's in the church serving, whether it's in the church leading. I dream, like, I want a whole section of our parking lot just for Harleys, like leather Harleys. I mean, we're all about, connecting and loving men and helping them to realize their rightful place in this spiritual battle, not as Barney, not as Barney Fife, but as William Wallace, because God has designed man in such a way to lead.
Yeah.
And so,
and the other ditch you can get into is that, when you hear the word masculine soul, or masculine, I think the culture has done a good job of spinning this narrative as it's this cocky, arrogant, bully. I'm masculine. I grow a beard. I ride a Harley, and so I'm going to put my finger in your chest, and that's not it either. And I think that's another danger.
Sure.
And so finding the balance. I always say every man should have the ability to be dangerous and to be violent, but have self-control over oneself. And so, but a man that has no ability to be violent or to be dangerous is not a man at all. And so there's this ability for us to be able to choose, and you've heard me say this a lot, our battles, because there's a battle to fight with every man. There's a battle to win. The problem is many of us are fighting the wrong battles, and we're getting sucked into fights that we don't have a dog in. You know what I mean? Like we're going down these rabbit trails, and we're pursuing things, and we're drawing lines in the sand with things that have nothing to do to leave a spiritual legacy, that are going to leave a legacy at all, family-wise, husband-wise, any of those things. And so I think it's conversations like this that we begin to, expose the lies of the culture, and also impart truth, to where men feel that it's okay to express the way they feel and to be the way they are, because they were wired that way. And if we take away, like I've said time and time again, the alienated rights of a man to be a protector and a provider and the things that God has put in man since the garden, we remove parts of man. And that's why we have a whole generation that's confused about their identity, about, their sexual identity and what it is. And there's this great deception of what that looks like, is because that has been seeping in, not only in the culture, but I believe in the church.
Oh, absolutely. I say this is like one of the most manly thing that you can do is to submit, and it takes courage to submit and surrender and bend the knee to Jesus and to the Lordship. You know what's easy? Living for self. Right. Living for self.
Yeah.
Like one of the most easy and cowardly things that you can do in life is to just live for self. And there's so many men that are caught up in the what about me disease. And so when we have the courage and we start really being developed in our identity. What does it mean to be a Christ follower? What does it mean to be a godly man? Well, the first thing is to have the courage and have the wisdom and have the faith to bend the knee to the lordship of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And realizing that my life means more than just self-serving, because Jesus, at the end of the day, the baddest dude on the planet, he didn't come to be served, but to serve.
Yeah.
And so when we start talking about what does it mean to fight, even to fight the right fight,
Right.
it's like having the courage to say, you know what, my life means more than it just serving self.
Yeah.
I was designed to lead my family, to love my family, to fight the right battles, to stay focused on the things that God has called me to do. And so many of us, especially in culture, what does it mean to be a man? Yeah. Well, usually it means about self-indulgence. It's all about me.
Your toys, your time, your man cave, your everything. And not that any of those things in and of itself is wrong. It's when they're out of balance. And when we don't put, like you said, the main thing, we're majoring on the minors and minoring on the majors. And so we have this whole unit that God constructed, which is the family, and it's out of balance. And when it's out of balance, we've all been there. Well, we've been out of balance. It doesn't work. And, for me, going back to that statement you made a little bit ago, I experienced the 2018 unraveling because I was targeted. If I would have known the spiritual hell and war I was in when I decided to parachute into a city and plant a church, like, the enemy's just not going to sit by and go, all right, man, have fun with that. No, he's going to be a full-on assault, frontal on you and everything that you touch. And, looking back, I tell young pastors all the time that are so excited about, ministry and the sex allure of, like, the fun and all the glitter and stuff that goes with it. But I always tell them, I say, man, you better spend twice as much time on your knees and on your face praying against the wiles and the attacks and all of the things with the enemy over your family and your children than you are how sexy your sermon series is. And your new can lights. Nothing wrong with those things. I think we should utilize all the technology and have all of the things that the world has and use them for the kingdom. Sure. But if that is the focus, man, we are missing it. And what you will find is a story like Shawn Boone's, where you saw a beautiful family destroyed, a church dismantled, and today not even existing because he got the man. He got to the man, and he began to pick off, everything from that point. And he gets the man, he gets the marriage, he gets the family, he gets the church.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to have great community.
True. Good men around. Every like we were talking about Jethro. This thing's not good.
Yeah, every war, every battle.
Yeah, you gotta have like advisors.
You need a platoon. You need a squad around you. You need men that can lift you up and encourage you and build you up and bring counsel, correction.
And show you don't do that. It's dumb.
Don't do that. That's dumb. Don't touch that. It's hot. You see that fire? It's burning. What are you talking about? No, it's not. Oh yeah, it's
okay.
Yeah, it's hot.
Yeah.
But coming together as men of God and what that looks like, lifting each other up and out, and at the end of the day, it is a battle.
It is.
Like when you texted me, earlier, like, what are you doing? Well, I was walking around here.
Like Jericho?
Yeah. Man, laying hands on every chair, just declaring life and freedom.
Let's talk about that as we go there. This battle between good and evil. And we're seeing that. Obviously, it's a personal battle. Sure. We know that the enemy is wanting to align himself with as many people that he can get to buy in to this deception and this lie that there is no God, and if he is, he's not good. Same lie that's been going on since the garden. But then we're seeing like evil and good on a national level, on a world stage. We're seeing what's happening with Hamas and Israel right now, and it's a scary time with what we're seeing in the world.
Yeah. Well,
just some of the things that I read. I mean, you didn't bring me up to speed last night. You were supposed to.
I didn't. I was studying,
and you were, and I was like, Trav's never called me, so I did find out they didn't invade on the ground. But then I started reading some of the stuff, and it's not good to read that before bed.
Oh no!
Because I started reading some of that stuff. I was like, I gotta go lay down now. It was a lot for me to process. as I was getting ready to lay down, and it's because it's the level of evil, the axis of evil. Like right now, it's like beyond like the beheading of children and raping and pillaging and all of the things elderly that have made it through the Holocaust and some of these things to die in their homes and to be slaughtered the way it is. And none of it is this war. None of it's nice. It's messy. Then you have the other side, of the innocent people that are being killed. Sure. And it's just none of it is good. And I think that's essentially what you're saying is that there's a war. We're in a beautiful love story, the gospel and God's big story of his love and reconciliation to mankind and his children through Jesus. But it's in the midst of war. John Eldredge says that. He says that we live in a beautiful love story in the midst of war. And I think that many are not fighting the right battles because they don't even realize that there is a battle going on. They're so checked out and we're so distracted with media and cell phones and all of the things that we're not even aware that there's a battle for your soul, for your family, for your job, for your,
Yeah, like even the war with Hamas and everything that's happening over there. I mean, despite of what the media is telling you and,
the narrative,
the narrative, let me just say this. That battle is for 14 acres up there on called the Temple Mount. Mm-hmm. That's what it's about.
It is, 100%.
And it's a spiritual battle. And the enemy is wanting to take that ground because that ground is where God's going to set up his throne.
Yeah.
And so when you realize, the reality of what's happening, that there is good and righteousness and there is evil, and evil is going to come against good. And at the end of the day, this is what I know as a pastor. I've read the back of the book. We win. And so I try to stay focused on the battle that God has called me to engage in. And so whether it's leading a community, leading men, preaching the gospel, and loving my, just loving my community, I find that I can get distracted with things that I can do nothing about and I'm not called to.
Yeah.
And so, and it'll distract me. As men, you can be distracted, not necessarily from bad or evil things, but they could be good things. They're just not great things.
You just fired me up with that because, I'm not at liberty to share all the details, but me and you've been talking about some strategies and things that I'm going to be sharing in the first of the year. And man, I haven't put it through that lens till just now. And you said it, something just quickened me. Like there's a battle here, to win with addiction and with some of the things that's happening, that's plaguing our culture, plaguing this generation. And we better get engaged because, I'm tired of doing funerals for friends that have lost the battle to the opioid,
war. It is a war.
Pandemic.
Yeah.
It's a war. And
it's a plague.
And one thing I know we're not going to do is ever stop it. We're not going to stop the manufacturers of making fentanyl. We're not going to stop it being shipped over illegally from these other countries. That's not going to happen. But there is a part, I love what you said. There is a part that I have, that you have, and we all have a sphere, and we all have a kingdom. And of course it submits to the larger kingdom. But we all have a point, Jesus being the great general and us being, leaders of regiments and things. But there is a battle to fight, and I love that you brought that out. And we better get to fighting.
Yeah, the right battle.
The right battle.
And it isn't just the good battle, but it's the God battle that he's called you to fight, that he's commissioned you, that he's given you counsel and instructions and said, hey, this is your territory, this is your battle, these are your people, this is your community, and engage in it, because we can become distracted. And I've said this before, it wasn't the evil part of the tree that got Eve.
Right. Yeah.
It was the good part.
It's the beauty.
Yeah, it was the good part.
Looks good and to taste and looks good for the touch and look good to the eyes. And
and so it can be good, just not good for you.
That's right.
That's why it requires a person.
It's true. Like you said, you can be distracted with good things and not doing the God things.
Let me just say this. For me personally, what God has called me and my family to do and the fight that I'm engaged in, let me just say it like this, and this is one of the things that we've wrestled with and we've had to come to grips with. Travel ball isn't bad. It's good.
Yeah.
It's just not good for the Buchanan household.
Right.
Because God's called us, we would have to be gone on weekends.
Right.
You know, that might be good for you and your family,
depending on what your race is and your journey.
But what God has called us to do, and I've had to have conversations with my daughter, you know, concerning those things. Like, hey, this is what God has called us to do. And anytime in battle, anytime when you're following and pursuing God, there's going to come a level of sacrifice.
Absolutely.
You know, and I'm not going to sacrifice the God thing and go pursue the good thing.
That's good.
I'm just not going to do it. God's not called me to do that.
I think as we close today, I think we see that so much with men that, you know, instead of taking their family to church on Sunday, they're pursuing golf or they're going surfing or whatever. Nothing wrong with those things, but we've got them out of order.
Sure.
Where the thing that's most important is that we would, you know, take that day, consecrate it, bring, you know, everyone to the house of God, that we would be refreshed and renewed and learn something that day, that we're pursuing something that we love that's good, but we're pursuing on the wrong day.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of what's happening in the culture with men is, well, I don't get to, you know, work all week, I get to play golf, or I want to surf, the waves are good. I know I've been there. I've seen a lot of surfers, you know, struggle with their faith when it comes to their commitments when the waves are good. You know, it's like, what do you mean? Like, it's not even like a thought. Or hunting season, how many in North Florida, let me put it in perspective here since we live in Florida. You know, here's the deal. When it's hunting season, we don't no longer care about our job because we got the deer hunt, you know, and so we put our responsibilities, which are more important. I've seen men lose their jobs, you know, that they've had because, my God, I'm going to hunt the first 2 weeks, you know, and they're going to take off and whatever and spend money, unnecessary money. So it's not that those things are bad, but if you get it outside of the parameters or you put it outside of the priority, then those good things can become bad things.
Oh, they can. And there is a divine flow and rhythm to life.
There's a pace of grace.
There is the unforced rhythms of grace. God has designed you in a way that, you know, there is a rhythm to your life. Men, there's a rhythm, and being fed spiritually and putting importance on the things of God is so important into experiencing God's that unforced rhythm of grace. And let me just say this, and I know that we're trying to conclude, but a lot of you men out there, I don't know who I'm talking to, you feel passionless. Like you go hunt, like it just doesn't hit the same. Like your passion is gone. And let me say this, Jesus said this concerning the greatest commandment. Like, hey, you got all this going on. These things aren't bad, but when it comes to life and it comes to the importance of the things of God, he said, love the Lord your God with how much?
All.
Yeah, all your what? Heart.
Yeah.
All your mind.
Yeah.
Come on, all your strength. Yeah. You know, and so it's all. And when it comes, now, let me just say this, and maybe you can identify, when it comes to our relationship with God and this all-in approach, come on, there's so many of us men, and I'm going to say it, I don't know who's watching, we just half-ass it.
Yeah, it's truth.
And because we do, we go through life passionless.
Yeah.
And it leaks, and maybe it's an unbalanced schedule or unused there's so many factors. But if we could get this right when it comes to God, like the masculine soul needs an all-in approach when it comes to the things of God and pursuing God. And so many of us, we're so divided, we're so distracted, and we're half-buttoning it when it comes to our relationship with God. I can check the spiritual pulse on the masculine soul within the men in this community. And they wonder why they don't have any passion. There's no passion in our relationship, in my marriage, in my work, because it starts with your passion for the things of God and pursuing. Jesus said, all your heart, all your mind, all your strength. Come on.
Because everything flows from that.
Everything does. And we've got passionless men that feel withered and dry, and they try to fix that with recreation, like hunting, golf, sporting events, drinking,
which are just temporary escapes.
Yeah. And if we
medicating the real issue.
Yeah, and if we could just, and if I could just speak to men, stop having it.
Yeah, man,
just stop it. I know that's King James. That's not cussing on camera.
Oh man, dude, thank you so much. I love when I get to have you come in and share your insight and wisdom, and what a subject for you to be able to pour into. And I think we're going to leave it right there, man. Men, stop half-assing. Get one, John Eldridge says single-heartedness. I love that, where men, we begin to get a single-heartedness. And the only way to do that is to get that from God. And I do believe with all my heart, I've seen this in my life work time and time again. When we put the main thing,
Yes.
I think it's Matthew 6:33, when we seek the kingdom and his righteousness, all these other things are added. And so we can have our recreation, we can have all of our stuff, the man cave, the big screen TV for the footballs games, all those things are okay. We just have to put it in the correct order.
It's a byproduct.
And it's a byproduct, man. It's a byproduct of health. It's a byproduct of the masculine journey.
Yeah.
And we begin to lead strong and see men made great again. Thank you, the Rabbi, for coming on. We'll have you again soon, and talking about topics like this and things to come, where we can encourage men to get out of their comfort and begin to take their rightful place in their homes and in the culture that we desperately need, man.
Yeah. Stop getting your butt whipped.
Yeah, man.
Be a man.
Yeah.
And, put the importance on the things of God and see what God can do.
Yeah, man. God bless you.
Yep.
Thanks again.